Okay, let's talk about it because I have a lot of clips to show you. So this is a spiritual channel and we're going to break down the spiritual aspects of this case and talk about how I think Diddy may have used spiritual beings to win his case. So it's not a surprise that Diddy may be dabbling in voodoo. He has the Loa, or the deity of Haitian voodoo, called Erizuli Dantor, and he has it tattooed in a huge tattoo on his back. Here is a clip.
Y'all be getting tattoos and have no idea what it is you're putting on your body. Okay. Anyway, look who Diddy has on his back, and ask yourself, do you think?
Now, other than this evidence, we don't have any major evidence that says he actually practices. But as a practitioner myself of a different tradition, I can recognize signs that seem like someone may be practicing. So here, let me break this down for you. So number one, if you haven't heard, Diddy hates the sketch artist. He is upset at how they are drawing him and he doesn't like it. And since Diddy's such a control freak, here's a clip of what I mean.
Remember how I said that Diddy looks like a koala? I don't think that this man liked it. I didn't know, but it doesn't seem like he likes it. I thought this was completely unrelated, but every time some of his kids would come in or like his best friend would come in, they're always snooping. They're always like peeking over the shoulders of the sketch artist, trying to get a vibe of the sketches. And so I was just thinking, this man really cares about his sketches. Well, I'm going through the news this weekend. On Thursday, he tells one of the sketch artists, this is like when the jurors are not in the room, he makes an unusual request. Soften me up a bit. This is a quote. Soften me up a bit. You're making me look like a koala bear. What does that even mean?
So these sketches disturb him so much, I think he actually hexed the sketch artist. And the reason why I say that is for him to be so bothered by it. And I followed Rotten Mango through a lot of this case. I watched her podcast to get the details on the case. I watched a couple others as well, but she was one of my go-tos for the case. And let me tell you, she mentions the sketch artist and how much it bothers Diddy so much in her reporting. It was noticeable to me. So the next thing you know, I get to see this video of another content creator who's covering the case talking about a woman who said that she sketches Diddy, and now she's having a hard time drawing Diddy. Here's the clip.
Christine Cornell, the court painter, just revealed that she is having a very hard time during this whole trial drawing the diddler. Now, that is very interesting to me because being in the courtroom, and many people will attest to this, she has had some type of COVID cough the entire trial. She has refused to take a day off. She is sitting right in front of the entire Combs family. You'll see the Combs family when she does this cough, and it sounds like one of the like deep COVID coughs where everybody, whenever she does it, everybody's like, Lord, am I going to catch that? And the Combs family, literally, Miss Combs giving looks, she's scooting down the pew.
So where the heck is this COVID cough coming from all of a sudden? Definitely making me think Diddy or someone in his team or camp hex this lady so that she would either not be able to draw him or would stop drawing him because he just didn't like it. Number two, the book. So apparently during the first parts of the case, Diddy was bringing in the Bible. He kept bringing the Bible in with him during the first half of the case. Suddenly, in the middle of the case, he ditches the Bible and brings this new book. Again, here's the clip.
Sean Combs is reading in court. He walks into the courtroom most days now with a new little book. He has ditched the Bible. He has replaced it with this bright red book with this orange circle in the middle. It was getting a little bit culty. Nobody could get a good read on it. And I'm like scooching to the side, squinting. I'm like trying to see if I could smuggle in a magnifying glass, but I also don't want to get kicked out of the courtroom. I'm trying to see what the hell this book is. I come home, Google it, bright red cover, orange circle in the middle. That is the magic of believing. While I'm sure it's a great book with a lot of great points made throughout, it is interesting that this is the book that Sean Combs decides to pick up mid-trial. I mean, perhaps he genuinely loves the book and he's just in his studious era. Or it's the intellectual defendant who has a desire to do the inner work ploy. Because at one point he starts reading the book mid-testimony, and I was trying to count the seconds of how long he's on one page because I'm like, I don't believe this man is actually reading this book right now, because I can barely read books when I'm so immersed into a case that have nothing to do with the case because my brain is just not registering it. There are more high stakes things going on, and he is the defendant of his own criminal federal trial, and you're reading a book in the middle of the court day? So I'm like, I don't think you're reading. I think this is fake.
So if you're a practitioner or you're in the spiritual community, you understand that a lot of people use books like this to help them manifest. We use books that help us think positive, help you learn how to manifest things, bring them forward, train your brain to be at a high energy level so that you can manifest what it is you're working on. So that's a huge sign that Diddy's not just, a Christian. Not to mention all of his devilish acts that we're hearing in this case. So that already had me thinking. And then that brings me to the situation with the jurors and the issues that they were having on the first day of deliberating on the verdict. Here's a clip.
charges. So he was facing 5 counts, and we're going to get into all of that. But day 3 of jury deliberation was, this was the day the verdict came out. It was obviously like the most intense day thus far. I would say the first day of jury deliberation was very stressful. There was a lot of unknown energy. Nobody really knew which way it was going to go. People were reading very deeply into the juror notes. The jury sent back a few notes. The first one being that there was the news media, everyone's been calling it like a rogue juror. Like, they get into the deliberation room. They send out their first note. It's a handwritten note by the jury foreman who is voted upon. This is like the leader of the jury. They don't have much more power, but they sign off on all these notes. And they send in that note, and it says that juror number 25 cannot follow instructions. And this becomes a whole ordeal. Everyone is like, what do you mean they cannot follow instructions? Does that mean that they cannot follow instructions, or they do not want to follow instructions? What does it mean? It got to the point where people, like a lot of the members of the press, were confused and wondering, is this person maybe not able to comprehend certain parts of the English language that might be applicable to the law? And so they start digging into the jury selection process, and they find out that this man is a PhD student, a scientist. And so everyone's like, okay, that's clearly not the case. So is it like a health thing? Do they have a medical emergency where they cannot follow the instructions? People were thinking of everything.
Okay, so the confusion that was going on with the jurors on the first day is a huge sign in the spiritual community of someone doing root work on you. Most of us who practice know that there are, certain spells or rituals you can do to help you in your court case. If you do it well enough, it can help you win your court cases. A huge sign is sending the spirit of confusion to some of the people in the court. So if somebody's acting weird or acting incompetent all of a sudden and they were fine, that's a huge sign that spiritual work has been done. And in this case of this juror, you saw that he was a scientist. He was a apparently normal person who shouldn't act like that, but suddenly he's acting like that. And then you have the verdict. So right the next day, after these jurors are having a hard time and the judge makes them go back and come back with a verdict, then you find out they suddenly are just perfectly fine and they all agree on this verdict. And notice how the results turned out. Here's a clip.
John Diddy Combs was found not guilty on all of his major charges. Yesterday, a note comes in that they have found a verdict, a partial verdict, a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts, but they are deadlocked on count 1. In the matter of U.S. v. Combs, how do you find the defendant, Sean Combs, for count 1? Not guilty. This is the count that they were deadlocked on all day. This is the RICO charge. Not guilty. As for sex trafficking for Cassandra Ventura, how do you find the defendant? Not guilty. Transportation for purposes of prostitution related to Cassandra Ventura? Guilty. There's no reaction. The deputy and the foreperson continue. As for sex trafficking of Jane, how do you find the defendant? Not guilty. Transportation for prostitution for Jane? Guilty. Diddy, at this point, has now broken out into full smiles because those were the 3 biggest.
And as Stephanie says in her podcast, I'm not going to show you that part, but as I was listening to her describe this in great detail on her podcast just this morning, she was describing how everybody was in shock at how sudden the jurors came to their conclusion. They literally thought it was going to be some days out before the verdict was read. But yet, you see, they immediately came back with a decision. That is a sign of spell work. So what do you guys think? Do you think Diddy did some ritual work to get out of this case? Me, being experienced in this lifestyle, I definitely think so. But I want to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments. Ashe.